the ability to change and adapt is the difference between whether or not you're going to be excellent or mediocre. Now, when I got married, my wife said to me, "Randy, I'll never ask you to change." And I thought, cool. She then went on to say, "I do expect that you'll continually adapt." A couple of you are going to write that one down, aren't you? That'll be the takeaway from the day when you go home tonight. What'd you learn, honey? You don't have to change. Do have to adapt. That's what the heroes in every marketplace do. They continually adapt. They've changed the way they think about change. You see, here's the other truth we know about business today. Past success proves you were right once. I'm worried about obsolescence more than break. Because chances are anything that you put in place is going to become obsolete before it stops working in today's world. You see, if the entire organization were 12 people, it'd be easy to change, wouldn't it? We go sit in a room on a Friday afternoon and we all, shut the door, we bring in food and drinks and we don't come out till we get it. You add this many people, it becomes a little more complex. You add the number of people, you expand that into the number of colleagues and staff that you have here within the system, and it becomes even exponentially more difficult. So you have to start thinking about that change early and preparing for it all the time. Because, in fact, we are leading in a world that is always changing.
We felt that the word change has gotten kind of a negative connotation, so we'd like to use a different word.
Great.
Transition or adaptation, something that captures the past, honors the past.
It honors that past.
It honors the past.
That's a great way.
It moves forward.
And so if you never talked about change again, would that be okay? Sure. As long as you continue to change. Over 200 of you completed that little survey I asked you to do, so thank you very much for doing that. We got some messages on the how side of change. And one of the messages was, overall, you're very good at change. In fact, of the 12 areas that I asked you to rate yourselves on, of 11 of those 12, you were 85, you rate yourself as good or excellent 85% of the time or more. On 11 out of the 12, which tells me you're very good at change, especially if there's no resistance. The ability to change is based on readiness. And intellectual understanding is not the same as emotional readiness. Folks, that's huge. Some years ago, I was privileged to be the chairman of the board for the American Heart Association in the state of Texas. During my year as chair, I traveled all over the state, talking to groups as small as 5 or 6, as large as 500 or 600. I asked people these 3 questions. I'll ask you the same 3. First off, how many of you know you should eat healthier than you eat today? How many of you know you should exercise more than you exercise today? If you smoke, how many of you know you shouldn't smoke? Am I the very first person to ever say, hey, that little warning label, that's real? See, the issue isn't intellectual understanding. The truth about changing and adapting and growing is this. The ability to change is based on readiness. Intellectual understanding is not the same as emotional readiness. So how do we get emotionally ready? When it comes to people who are ill, they often wait till crisis. In fact, people only change for 1 of 2 reasons. 1, crisis pushes us to change. You see that all the time with people who are sick, who have heart attacks, who have some sort of physical ailment. Crisis pushes them to change. The other thing is this: opportunity pulls people to change. That's basically it. We all change because crisis push, opportunity pull. For most of us, we wait on crisis, don't we? The challenge is, if everything is a crisis, then nothing becomes a crisis. If everything is crisis-based, then we miss the opportunities. Is anyone here the parent of a 2-year-old? Anyone here that have a 2-year-old son or daughter? Right back where? Raise your hand. Yeah, you, sir. Son or daughter? Both? Twins? Bless you. 2-year-old son, what's his name? Wesley? And so Wesley's about, what, this tall, right? About this tall? So Wesley's about this tall. And your name is Blake? Okay, so here's the deal. Wesley walks into Blake's kitchen and sees on the top of Blake's refrigerator the ultimate prize for a 2-year-old. It's a jar of double-stuffed Oreo cookies. Now, what's Wesley thinking about at this point? I mean, he's singularly focused, right, and he's also realizing, I'm only this tall. And so all of a sudden, there's this gap, right? There's this gap between a clear, compelling vision and reality. Clear, compelling vision, cookies. And what will Wesley do to try to bridge that gap? Yeah, the short answer is everything, isn't it? I mean, do you have to say to Wesley, think outside the box? Be innovative. Try some new ideas. Maybe change your approach. No, all you have to do is go, cookies. And he gets it, doesn't he? That's what that it generates that tension of the opportunity is big enough. Now, do you have that same problem if there's like Brussels sprouts up there? So here's the question. If we want to get people engaged, here's the question. What's on top of our refrigerator? It really sort of comes down to that, doesn't it? If it's Oreo cookies, we get it. If it's Brussels sprouts, we don't. What's on top of our refrigerator? What is that compelling vision? What is that thing that we could do that would be so much fun? It would be so cool. It would change everything about how we operate if we could just get that. I mean, that's really how you generate that tension, because once people get it, they go for it. Now, the only part of that is it has to be important to them. I'm not your traditional speaker who only gives talks about change. About 50% of my time each year is devoted to working arm in arm with clients to help them focus, lead, and sustain change. So when I work with your group, I bring strategies that we know work from years of hands-on experience. We focus on the specific challenges you face, and we always look for ways to involve and engage your team to identify strategies and solutions that will produce results in their world. It doesn't matter if it's a team of 8 or 9 or an audience of over 1,000. My goal is to help you make change work. I equip leaders to make the changes and sustain the culture they need in order to achieve the results they want. I've been doing it for over 20 years, and I do it well. You come and you hear that, we're doing these changes, and it's easy for you to think, well, obviously we must be doing some things wrong because we keep doing all these changes. That's an indication that you're doing things right. I get asked to work with a lot of organizations, both from a presentation standpoint like this and then also long-term consulting that I do with folks. And I very rarely, almost never, work with bad organizations because the bad organizations never even ask the questions that you had the courage to ask today. So I think you should feel good about that. If the fact that you asked this question today of how do we get better at change is a good indication that you're already pretty good at change. Because the ones that don't get it never ask the question.